guys, अस्सलाम वालेकुम. Welcome back to another episode of Happy Chirp. आज हमारे साथ हैं Sonya Rehman, who has achieved a lot. By the way, I was reading her profile. And you have done a lot, mashallah. But in a small, I would say that professionally she is an art and culture journalist, right? That's how we would call you. But all the things that she has done, वो हम जब इनसे बात करेंगे, and in this journey you will be able to see what I'm talking about when I meant all the things that she has done. So how are you?
I'm great, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited.
I'm also very excited to have this conversation with you. So let's dive into your life. Where were you born and raised? Where do you come from?
So Lahore, Pakistan, from the get-go. We moved to Karachi for a couple of years in between while growing up. But it's mainly been Lahore. And then a couple of years ago, we moved to Islamabad. It's been about almost 3.5, 4 years now. And but then I moved back to Lahore a few months ago because, I don't know, I just feel like, especially regarding media and journalism and other projects, Lahore is kind of like this place where I feel my most creative. So I moved back. So I'm in between both Lahore and Islamabad.
Right now. Sahi. So आपकी family Lahore से ही belong करती थी या did they at some point move from somewhere or what?
Okay, so my family background is a bit varied. My grandfather's side of the family, they're in India. My grandmother's side are from Iran. Father's side, yes. So they met in Pune in India. And that's how they met, and they got married, they had children, and then they moved to, they didn't, my grandmother moved to Pakistan. And my father's side of the family are third generation Afghans, and so kind of like a mixed breed, to be honest.
Yeah, mixed breed, yeah. I can tell, by the way.
Yeah.
Like you're not just purely subcontinent India, Pakistan, but the Afghan, Iran features are there. So, Lahore mein aapne, how was your life growing up? What was your childhood like? Where did you get your early education from?
Okay. So basically, Humna, I mean, just going by the background, I'll just talk a little bit about how I always felt, and my family always felt like we didn't really belong in society because we were so mixed. So, I think we always had, and I always had this chip on my shoulder. I'm not really Lahori, I'm not really Pakistani enough. But I tried very hard, and I think one way that I discovered my identity in the city of Lahore in Pakistan was through journalism. Connecting with people, writing about people, but there was always that chip on my shoulder. There was always this thing that I perhaps am not good enough or Pakistani enough. What is it for me to be a Pakistani? What can I give back? So there was always this thing, because even in our home, it was very different. We didn't really speak Urdu as such.
Achha.
We would speak English. And then it was very hard growing up in school, and then during my OA levels in Bloomfield Hall. It was very difficult to kind of relate with people. But then it was like a slow, gradual process. And and I think only abhi aake, I really do feel that I have every right to belong to this country. It's so strange, right? I've never lived for more than a year outside Pakistan, but I always felt like I never really belonged here. Abhi aake, post-COVID, at the age of 39.
You feel like you belong here. This is your identity.
It's
this
my
country
identity.
Is your identity.
Big time. And अक्सर लोग कहते हैं कि तुम बाहर क्यों नहीं चली जाती हो? I have tried, went for my master's abroad, tried working in Dubai for a year. But abhi aake, more so now, the older I get, I will never leave Pakistan.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. It's just this thing where I feel very loyal to the country. Some people may think I'm stupid, and they've even said that to my face, but I'm very loyal to this country. And my bread and butter has been on writing about overlooked people, overlooked artists in Pakistan.
Acha.
So maybe there's a bit of narcissism there too, कि मैं चली जाऊंगी फिर कौन करेगा, which is so stupid.
But what I understand is that there is a connection there now. Because of your work as well.
Yes.
So if this has been your work, तो फिर आपको loyalty ज़्यादा feel होती है. That if I have talked about this in my work, so then I need to stay in this country.
Exactly.
I get that.
That's so true. I think, Humna, through other people's stories, interviewing them, reporting on them, I found myself.
I get that so much. Recently, I mean, I haven't, like, you've been doing this for a while. I've only started the podcast like 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I realized in this time that somebody asked me recently, I lost my father around 12 years ago. Okay? And
Sorry.
on this, and a couple of other things as well. Obviously, हर किसी के अपने experiences और वो होते हैं. Like bad times come and they happen and things happen.
Yeah.
But I've recently realized that 12 years में अब जाके suddenly I feel more healed. So somebody said this to me, do you think it's because of your podcast? And I realized that in a way, yes. I have spoken to so many women, so many people, that it has helped me. The conversations, it's like therapy in a way.
Absolutely.
The conversations have helped me heal because I've spoken to other people about their loss, their life, their woe. So somehow, like I found a way to heal myself through other people and their conversations. And it's also true that the more you talk to other people, you find pieces of yourself. So identity आपकी ज़्यादा establish होती है.
Absolutely.
Because you're getting into conversations you never thought about.
Exactly.
And that helps you discover what you really think about these things.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Yeah. And Humna, absolutely. And I think हमारे मुआशरे में grief, depression, हम इन चीज़ों को, इन subjects को बहुत internalize कर देते हैं. Only अभी आके with this entire movement and, even on like YouTube and social media about self-awareness, knowing the self, finding out your purpose. These are very new concepts. And I think, but slowly it's gotten the conversational ball moving and people are now trying to understand, Acha, where are my pain points?
Yeah.
What do I need to fix? What do I need to heal? And that's wonderful actually to hear that through your work you found a way to pull yourself out of that grief which lasted so many years.
So many years, yeah.
And I'm sure it must have been very traumatizing to go on for so long, for over a decade. I can understand. I can even feel your pain right now.
Yeah.
But, I think वही बात है, when you find your purpose and when you're connecting with people, you kind of like forget your grief. And like you said right now, you feel like you can relate to the person you're interviewing.
Yes.
So it just kind of like sheds a bit.
And also like you share your grief as well, ना? जब कोई अपने loss की बात कर रहा है या कोई grief share कर रहा है यहाँ पे आके, so आप भी अपना share करते हो and it's like grieving together and healing together वाली चीज़ है. You don't feel so alone in the process.
Yeah.
Obviously, like other factors have to do with it, but I do think that this is a very, very integral part of my healing process.
Absolutely.
And I think healing will always be up and down, but it's something like right now I feel like the podcast has really helped me with that. So when you said that point, I thought कि मैं ये भी अपना थोड़ा सा share करूँ aspect.
That's wonderful to hear, by the way.
Yeah. So so we were talking about you feeling like you finally sort of belong to this country.
Exactly,
So but growing up, like you said that for the longest time, you used the word, you had this chip on your shoulder, and for the longest time you couldn't understand. How did that affect you growing up?
वही बात है Humna, I just felt like, okay, like, little things like during Eid at a friend's wedding or a family wedding, or like we weren't doing the things that other families in Pakistan were doing. We were just in our own little cocoon and just kind of like on like survival.
Is it because you didn't have a lot of relatives?
Yes, exactly. Very good point. Not a lot of relatives, and also my mother has been a single parent, for most of her life.
Acha, okay.
So that was also something where it was just we were focused on survival. She had to get the bills paid. There were many times where she was like working 2 jobs at a time. So I've seen her like really put her nose to the grind. So, and as a result of that, and then obviously Pakistani society in the 90s, I remember when I was a kid growing up, was very unforgiving. They'd be like, "Hi Allah, divorcee." Working woman must be a bad person.
Yes, वो तो एक होता था ना कि खराब औरत वाली जो चीज़ है.
Exactly. और वो labels used to be very painful. Even though my mother's a very different kind of person, she would be like, don't think about what people say. Do your own thing. You know, earn your money, earn your bread in a good, rightful way. You know, make yourself happy. Do the right thing by people. And that's all you need to do. You'll sleep well at night. But it used to affect me. And I used to be like, no, but why is that teacher saying that about you? Why is that, you know, parents saying that? Like, I remember once in my O-levels, on my birthday, a very dear friend of mine wasn't allowed to come to my house because her mother said that Sonia's family is kharab because her mother's a divorcee.
Oh my God.
So she could only drop the gift off at my gate. So imagine having little experiences like that. It's crazy. In this day and age, you think like, how mad. Because wo stigma hai hi nahi anymore, Allah ka shukr hai. You know, women are more emancipated. Wo shame nahi hai. But yeah, so I think that's why through all these experiences, the chip got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, that's tough. I think growing up with that is tough. But okay, so you mentioned that your mother was divorced.
Yes.
Your mother was a single mother.
Yes.
What's that like? To have a single mom and also to be the child of a divorced parent. I don't know. I'm sorry, agar ye thoda sa wo hai.
No.
But and if you don't want to answer, that's okay as well.
Okay.
But do you think that you can share some perspective on that?
Absolutely. I think when you're a child, when you're growing up, you're seeing other, you know, during parent-teacher meetings, during, sports competitions, during plays, you know, whatever. You see other children, I would see other children with their parents coming, you know, a set of parents, 2. And there I would see just my mom. So, of course, you grew up thinking there's something wrong with you. You grew up thinking there's something wrong with your family. And of course, in societal influence, it puts that in your ears, right? So I think growing up, I always felt like, you know, there was something missing. There was something lacking. You feel like there's some sort of emotional amputation. Baad mein jaake, many years later, I remember a friend telling me during one of my, you know, we were talking, we had a heart-to-heart session once, and she was like, you know, your mother is a mother and father both. So never think you're lacking. And that always stayed in my mind, and it really shifted my perspective. And I was like, that's so true. She's been a woman in this tough society, but functioned like a man, and has been the both stable father and the mother, the caregiver, the emotional softie, you know, for me and my brother to fall back on. So I think growing up with a father always felt like something's lacking, and all children go through this, right? No matter how much love was in my life, no matter how much whatever support there was. But at the same time, as a result, Humna, what happens is with single parent children, ek to I don't like this concept, broken home.
Yeah, broken home. Yeah.
Any child in a dysfunctional family life setup is a broken home. Imagine growing up in a house where I've had friends growing up in a house where the parents are constantly bickering with each other. There's no love in that home. It's a broken home.
It's a broken home. Yes.
So, as a result, what happens is in one's adulthood, and that's happened with me, you feel like you don't need a man. You know?
I understand.
You feel like you don't need a man, which is wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone needs companionship.
Yeah, but वो एक build हो गई because you basically आपके लिए familiar और normal जो चीज़ होती है वो आपको सबसे सही लगती है.
Exactly.
कि हाँ, so I think I get that. Yeah. Like ज़रूरत ही नहीं थी, like because you feel like, you know, this is complete. Why would anybody need that?
True.
And that makes a lot of sense. So how do you think that that's something that you have begin to understand? Like you said, that that's not right. You think everybody needs a companion. So how
Absolutely.
have you unlearned this concept in your head?
How I've unlearned it. So I went to the Lahore School of Economics. I studied finance there, and I really scraped through that degree because my main plan था to go to NCA, to be an artist. At that time, my friends were getting nikah and engaged, and we were like 21, 22 years old. Us waqt se I was like, bas maine shaadi karni hai. I want to be married. I want to have children. I want to be a mom. But it never really happened, you know. And of course, I had a role to play in it too. I think sometimes one has high expectations. One doesn't really compromise as such. But above all of that, 80% of it was my perception of my life कि मैंने कुछ बनना है, to stand on my own 2 feet. So I stopped looking at marriage as this avenue of complete fulfillment. I didn't look at it as the holy grail of my life.
Which is a good thing.
It's a good thing,
In many
Humna.
ways,
It's
Sonya.
a good thing, but I feel like now at this age, it's true when they used to say, the older generation, you'll get too set in your ways. Be careful. I feel it now. You get too set in your ways, and also I think there comes a point where you're like, okay, I've peaked early in my career. Now what? Now what?
Okay, yeah, yeah. Companionship तो आपकी रहती है और आगे तक जाती है.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. I think it's just that you shouldn't be extremes में नहीं चलना चाहिए. Balance ज़रूरी है. Marriage is not the holy grail, and it shouldn't be for anyone.
That's right.
It's important. ये बात लेकिन नहीं भूलनी चाहिए कि it's not important. Like if it's something that you think that you want to do, then you have to think about it as well.
Very true. Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So growing up, what did you see yourself as कि मैं बड़े होके क्या बनूंगी? Because I'm sure कि कुछ लोगों का तो ये होता है ना कि उन्होंने because उनकी mothers working नहीं होती, उन्होंने देखा तो for a lot of girls they don't even really care or think about it. They're just like शादी हो जाएगी.
That's so true.
Some people are like that.
That's true. Yeah.
But for you, what did you want to be when?
And it's also very endearing actually, that thought कि बस हाँ शादी. I was that. कि हाँ नहीं बस I'll get married and life will be perfect. And I still think that way at this age. I still think that way कि yes, getting married and having children and being a mom is like the be all and end all of what.
I mean, it is a very wholesome thing. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's a very fulfilling, wholesome, cute, nice thing to
That's
have.
true.
Yeah.
But I suppose in all of that, you shouldn't lose your sense of self.
Yes, that.
Right?
But that is the balance I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Your identity shouldn't revolve around those roles, na?
Yes, exactly. But coming back to your question, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, even though by the age of like 9, I started writing, and I was writing poetry and, writing these silly little stories. And then I started getting published in the Nation's children's
Bachon
section.
wala.
Exactly. Young Nation. Arif Nizami was the editor at the time, and I was 13 years old and I started getting published. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but all I knew was I want to hurry up and grow big, become a big person so I can support my mother. So I can be the buffer for her against the world. Because, and I know this is going to sound like a sob story, but I was so tired of people judging her for being the divorcee, for being the working woman.
Yeah.
But thank God, Humna, thank God for social media, thank God for the internet, that perception is gone.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, because there are people who had to go through it. And interesting because, आपका दिमाग जो है वो उस औरत पे जिसके साथ हुआ है वहाँ तक जाता है. But this is the perspective of her daughter.
Yes.
Okay, like how it made her feel that she wanted to become big so she can protect her mother from whatever the society was doing to her.
Exactly.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So you आपका interest हो गया into writing, but you didn't know exactly कि अच्छा क्या करना है. कभी ये नहीं था कि डॉक्टर बनना है या इंजीनियर बनना है, टीचर बनना है, because लोगों का होता है इस तरह से. Okay.
I think it was, how kids are, they're like, oh, सब कुछ बनना है.
True.
Right.
Which is so great, by the way. Because as a kid, you're just like, the world is my blank canvas.
Yeah.
And I can be any and everything.
True.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Sahi. And then, so when you then grew up, so what did you decide to pursue in your higher education?
Okay.
And how did you decide that?
So while I was scraping through this disgusting finance degree, where I'm like, oh my God, statistics and this and
so
that.
why did you choose it in the first place?
I didn't choose it. It was chosen for me because my mother's like, I don't want you to struggle like I did.
Okay.
Get your BBA.
उनका trauma response. कि अब ये मेरे साथ हुआ है तो no, I get that.
Yeah.
So to protect you.
Yeah. And I was like kicking and screaming through that degree. But then what happened was I heard that Daily Times mein, they needed an apprentice for their Sunday magazine. And Sunday was relatively new in those days. I was 18, 19. And I was like, मैं apply karungi. So I applied on the quiet, got the apprentice.
This is during university.
Exactly.
Take care.
And got the apprenticeship. And after college, I'd go straight to Daily Times, the office, which was also in Gulberg. And I was working for a couple of hours there. And that's when I knew at that age that I want to be in the media field. And us waqt, I think since then, Humna, it was just cemented for me. Because it was so much fun. Seeing your byline in the paper, in the magazine, being on the back end, doing all this stuff. It was just so exciting, you know.
Or I guess some things like writing brings you joy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then you finished your degree.
Finished my degree. And then for a couple of years, I just tried a little bit of everything. I was with FM89 for a bit, for a couple of months. They had just launched. And I was like, oh my God, maine RJ banna hai. Ridiculous. Then did that, did a bit of Hum TV. I was a host for an architecture show.
Achha.
I did about 7 episodes.
How was your experience on TV?
It was interesting. I wouldn't say it was the best because it was very rough in the sense that even though it was a very niche architecture show on Hum TV, interviewing people like Nair Ali Dada, stuff like architects like that, but it was very looks focused, and I had to drop 20 pounds in a month to get that.
Somebody else also came on my show who said the same thing. TV पे काम करने का ये कि it's all about the looks.
It's all about the looks, exactly. And even then, it was like, ke, acha, can she do it or not? She's not, that thin, etc., etc. But khair, wo ho gaya. It was interesting. So I did a little bit of everything, did a bit of English copywriting as well at an ad agency. And karte, I started working full-time at the News International. And I was heading the Lahore office for Instep, the Instep paper. I did that for a year. And that's when I started realizing, Humna, ke I need a master's.
Achha.
Otherwise, there was no family pressure, mother pressure, nothing at all. But I was like, I still want to study journalism.
मतलब मैंने इसकी academic को भी understand करना है कि actual में the education side of this. How do you do it in the most formal ways?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How can you be a good writer? And even though it's not needed, in this day and age, anyone can be a writer. Anyone can be a media person. You just have to have that passion for it.
Yeah.
Khair, that's another topic. So karte, I then cold applied to Columbia School of Journalism, Graduate School of Journalism, got admission that year, couldn't go because of a lack of finances, couldn't even afford my plane ticket.
Oh, achha.
Asked them to defer my application. Karte, 2 years passed, applied for the Fulbright, thanks to a friend, Maria. She was like, you have to do it. I was like, Maria, I don't even have money to pay for my GRE exam. Here I'm trying to make ends meet as a journalist. I can't. She was like, I'll do it for you. So, I'm so grateful to her for that. So she funded my GRE, my TOEFL. I paid her back. And got the Fulbright. And Fulbright application, Humna mein hota hai na, they give you 3 options. What are your desired schools? Number 1 was Columbia. And then it's up to them, USCFB, what they'll choose for you. And amazingly enough, it was Columbia.
Wow.
Yay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Columbia must have been something.
It really was something. But, now when I think about it, Humna, I really feel your work on the field as a journalist is your education.
Yeah. There's some things you can never learn from the books.
Exactly.
Bilkul,
Columbia was a great experience from a life experience point of view where I was where I had to be confident. I'll give you an example. As soon as we landed, we had a 2-day orientation, and literally by the 3rd, 4th day, our professors were like, okay, this is your topic you have to report on, get out there. So imagine, I was a complete fresh off the boat student, literally. And I was like, how do I even communicate with people? How am I going to do this?
How old were you when you
I was 27. I wasn't even a kid. I was 26 actually. I graduated when I was 27, and I was like, I can't do this. Even the subway used to scare me. I was, one of those typical Pakistanis, you know, desis, where I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. The skyscrapers, you know, the portion sizes, you know. So, but when I came back, things started becoming, I had a lot of clarity. I was looking at Pakistan with fresh eyes. I was looking at what I wanted to give back with fresh eyes.
I think sometimes it's really important to get away. Because जब get away करते हो तो फिर आपको ज़्यादा clarity होती है when you come back.
With any situation, be it a relationship, a friendship, a job, anything.
Yeah, because while you're in it, it's very hard to be objective. It's very hard to think rationally. But when you're outside, looking at it from the outside, and then when you come back, तो थोड़ा सा आप rationally or objectively उस चीज़ के बारे में सोच और उसको समझ सकते हो.
Absolutely.
Right. So when you came back, you said कि fresh eyes के साथ आपने देखा.
Yeah.
So what is it that then you wanted to do and give back to Pakistan? In what way? You were like, अब मैंने ये करना है.
Yeah.
Through journalism.
So I think, so as soon as I came back in 2010 after my 1-year program, I was like, I want to get into teaching. I want to teach journalism. I want to teach writing. So I started doing that. I started going on photo walks because photojournalism was a subject we had to study as well during the course. And, you know, aksar hum jate the, even solo, walking around New York, taking photos and this and that. And then when I came back, I'm like, why can't we do photo walks in Pakistan? So I started going all over Old City in Lahore. And started taking photos, putting it up on Facebook, thousands of albums. And that's when friends started saying, okay, why don't you make postcards out of this? And that's when I launched my little postcard company, From Lahore with Love. I haven't done too much with it. I could have done a lot, but I just have been so caught up with 9-to-5 jobs or projects, ya jo bhi hai. But that is my sweet spot, where I feel like I've given back to the city of Lahore in my little way. And, you know, I was talking to someone recently, Humna, and I said, through From Lahore with Love, I feel like a little puzzle piece has gotten stuck back in its rightful place in Lahore. That's me. You know?
Sweet, yeah. So basically, it's a postcard company?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I've seen it.
Yeah. And it's also this little place where I feature people, feature talent, artists and things like that. Do a little Insta live sessions now and then. Yeah.
Okay. So basically you are exploring the culture of this country through your journalism.
Yes.
And showing it to the world.
Yeah.
So are you doing this, so besides the postcard thing, are you doing now a full-time job with someone?
So that's something that I feel like ever since Columbia, that is something which hasn't really worked out for me, full-time work. I think it's also my nature, Humna, even though I have had moments where I've been, you know, working in a school network for about 2 years, or working with a startup, or working with a media agency for about a year or so. But I just realized that, and this has been my thing shuru se, I want to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because I've always had this feeling of I'm running out of time. And maybe again that links back to the chip on the shoulder, where I'm like, give back as much as you can. So I even now, to this day and age, I feel like have to have lots of things cooking at the same time.
I completely get that. I think there's some people who are just like that. They can't be put in a box, and they can't be put in certain time slots कि आपने इस time से इस time पे बैठ के बस ये करना है.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's so much, I think in some people there's so much sort of passion in how they want to create impact, कि they're just like, yeah, this is, इससे नहीं हो रहा.
Yes.
और मैं किस तरह impact create करूँ, और मैं किस तरह impact create करूँ. And I kind of relate because मेरे साथ भी constantly यही रहता है. अब हर वक्त like changing, switching, now doing this, now doing that. Because, you know, when you're I feel like jobs जो होती हैं या what you do professionally, it's just a medium or means to a purpose that you have on the inside. अब वो आप किस तरह achieve कर सकते हो, everybody finds their own ways. So for some people, like, you know, आपने कोई, like, अगर आपने impact or influence किसी तरह create करना है, so there are lots of ways to do it. And then, you know, something clicks and you're just like, okay, this is how I'm going to create that impact, or this is how I'm going to give back. But then there's so many other options as well, and you're like, you know, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can impact in this area, influence in this area. So for some people it's not that simple.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah, so it's just for some people it is very simple कि हमने बस यही करना है, and they're very focused on that.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, I think they see growth very vertically.
Yes.
कि for example अगर मैं एक डॉक्टर की मिसाल दूँ कि आपने ग्रेजुएट किया, फिर आपने कुछ और एग्जाम्स दिए, कुछ और फिर स्पेशलाइज किया, so it's vertical because वो उसी में like you're specializing, you're growing, and then you become at the top of that.
Yeah.
And I think generally for society that is how people view success.
Yes.
Vertically, but for some people it's horizontal.
Correct.
They're just like, I want to do this.
Oh,
and
it's like this.
oh, it's like this. Yeah, and I want to do this.
Yeah.
And I also want to do this, and I want
Yeah.
to create impact. And I feel like that's completely okay. There are people who like this sort of growth.
Yeah.
They want to do this
true.
and I feel like that's also, why is that not success? That's also success, to do multiple things and do lots of things and explore them.
That's actually very true and a very, very good valid point that you've brought up. Because also the West is not looking at, being consistent in one place of work for many years as the barometer for success. The barometer for success is creativity, but above everything, and of course competence and a sane mind and things like that, but it's also emotional intelligence.
Yes, now emotional intelligence is everything.
It's everything. Because underneath emotional intelligence, you get the whole amazing qualities of that individual, right?
Yes.
Which can benefit the organization. But I think hamare maashre mein again, there's that thing ke, oh my God, this person jumps the ship a lot.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to the individual. They're flawed.
Yeah.
Just like the divorced woman, the same way the inconsistent...
Outcast. Oh.
Yes. Or a better word, Humna, outlier.
Outlier is the word.
It's very positive because it's like a disruptor.
That's what my, I used to really question what's wrong with me, because I professionally I'm a dentist.
Wow.
And then I did, then I started doing blogging, content creating, entrepreneurship bhi ki hai. I started 2 businesses.
Yeah.
And then I decided to do the podcast as well. And,
Yeah.
what's wrong with me? But my husband, he uses this word. He's like, Humna, you don't understand, you're an outlier. Some
Love
people
it.
are outliers.
Yes.
And they will never conform to वो. And it's not like जो लोग conform कर रहे हैं या उनका वो है, there's something wrong with that. That is also success.
Correct.
We accept that. But outliers also need to be sort of
Absolutely.
accepted. And I do feel कि ज़्यादातर आर्ट्स और क्रिएटिव इंडस्ट्री में आता है, बिकॉज इट वॉज फ्रॉम द स्टार्ट नेवर टेकन एज सीरियसली. इट वॉज ऑलवेज अ हॉबी, इट वॉज ऑलवेज जस्ट अ क्रिएटिव एवेन्यू, समथिंग ऑन द साइड. But for some people, it's everything. It's the real deal, and that's what they want to do for a living.
Absolutely.
अब तो शुक्र है कि all of these things are much more valued.
Exactly.
Than before.
Yeah. Absolutely, Humna. And you're so right about how, like you were saying right now, how society, it's either you're bad or you're good. I mean, the black and white thing.
Black and white.
It's ridiculous. And you're absolutely right. Even those people who are consistent, ek naukri mein ya jo bhi hai, in one business, ye wo, even that's success. Because it takes a lot of grit, confidence, self-belief.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
No.
Working in the same company for over a decade.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But absolutely. And I think abhi aake, the lack of labels on things, the erosion of labels is, I think, very liberating for people.
But I also think that lots of new labels have come up.
That's true.
In other ways.
That's true. For instance?
Like you either, so for example, either you have views of a leftist, like either you are left or you are right. And if you have, कोई भी आपका view जो है वो थोड़ा सा different hai, so you suddenly don't belong. Like there is no space.
Yeah.
In the sense, if you're having certain views of the left, so you have to have all of them.
That's true.
Otherwise, you're not part of the. So वही एक label है. Like that's a label. Then there are lots of ists around, and उस तरह की चीजें. So while we've gotten rid of a lot of other labels, which were were very important for us to get rid of, we've created a lot of new ones.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a certain kind of view, a certain kind of language. अभी भी लोग बहुत ज़्यादा black and white में चीज़ों को देखते हैं, मुझे इस तरह लगता है.
You're absolutely
There is no
right.
acceptance of grey.
There's no
You
acceptance
can
of
feel
grey.
this and also feel that, and think this and also think that.
And actually having the ability, the emotional capacity, and not the emotional capacity of a peanut, where you are looking at both sides of the picture. The reason why we fail at that is हमारी गलती नहीं है, because critical thinking का इतना वो shortage है हमारे school curriculums में.
Yes.
It comes from there.
Yeah.
And if children are taught to question things, and they start off questioning, don't they? I mean, you see young kids and they're like, what's the meaning of life? And, things like about moon and the sun and nature and animals and purpose. And, and they're such funny, simple questions, but they're yet so profound. And what do we say? We're like, we reprimand them if they get too insistent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have time to answer your questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So critical thinking is something which expands the mind.
Okay, so there are 3 things I would say. Critical thinking, absolutely essential.
Yeah.
That I think is very important. People need to learn this growing up.
Yeah.
Second is problem solving. And third is emotional intelligence, जिसकी बात की.
Yeah.
हमारी society में emotional intelligence को तो बिल्कुल ही start से वो नहीं किया गया. What is that anyway? ठीक है. और critical thinking है कि हमारा वो था कि no need to question everything, just do as you're told.
Yes.
It is what it is type. What I've understood about, like, as I've grown up is कि and I understand why, like, यही करते हैं. आपका बच्चा होता है, आप बच्चे को कुछ समझाते हो, सिखाते हो. आप बच्चों को हमेशा black and white में चीज़ें सिखाते हो. This is wrong, this is right. This is wrong and this is right. ये चीज़ें करनी है, ये नहीं करनी, ऐसे होता है, ऐसे नहीं होता है.
Yeah.
So हम generally, like, when we raise kids, we create a very black and white world view. And for the right reasons. Like, what we're trying to do is we're trying to teach them wrong and right. We're trying to teach them what's good for them, what's bad for them. We're trying to protect them also.
Correct.
And we're trying to turn them into good human beings. But as you grow older, you realize that being human is absolutely grey.
Yes.
And unlearning, and you have to realize कि जितना आप black and white में सोचते हो, उतना ही आप judgmental, उतनी ही आपके अंदर lack of compassion और lack of empathy और intolerance होती है. And we have done that to our kids. And I'm not saying that you can't teach them, you can't raise them with the black and white worldview. You have to, like, you have to teach them right and wrong.
Yes.
But I think it is so important कि side by side आप उनको emotionally intelligent or empathetic or compassionate बनाओ, that they are able to see when it's important to see the grey in society. That we are all human. To be human is to be grey. Because you are sinful, you have your flaws, and why are we teaching our children to hold themselves on a pedestal, like, and others as well? कि इस तरह होना है, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good. And I think it takes, like, बड़े हो के आपको realize होता है कि यार मेरे कितने मसाइल हैं और मेरे कितने flaws हैं मेरे, and that is when the struggle happens for yourself, where you have to where instead of empathizing and forgiving even yourself for your flaws, you constantly hate yourself.
So
you're
true.
just like, oh, what's wrong with me, wrong with me, and you hold yourself on that pedestal and others on those pedestals and judge others and judge yourself, and basically you breed a lot of hate and negativity in the society, where you're just like,
exactly.
And I see, and that on social media, that has really come out, where you are exposed to so many people and so many thoughts के आप, इसीलिए तो कहते हैं polarization इतनी ज़्यादा बढ़ गई है, because you were never taught to see beyond black and white. You were never taught to empathize. You've just grown up to see things as either this or that, and now that you see that this side also exists and that also exists, you are not wired to be tolerant enough.
Very true. And I think also the lack of awareness vis-a-vis how so many of these platforms run on sensationalism, yellow journalism, and hatred. That's what keeps their machine running. And I think we don't see that, and we're like, let's take this person down on Twitter, it's awful.
Exactly. So I don't know, but I think we really need, as a society, we need to see people as humans.
Tell me one thing. What's your definition of emotional intelligence? Like, what do you see that as?
When I speak of emotional intelligence, I mean somebody who is पहले तो awareness की बात आती है, aware of their emotions, how they feel, how they react and respond to things, and also how they process emotions. I think that's a huge part of emotional intelligence. Also, then how they express it and communicate it, जिसमें again वो respond react वाली चीज़ आ जाती है. And also and again another aspect is how, like, when you learn to process it and how to respond to your emotions, how to not let them get in the way of decision making. And even if they do come in there, you're very aware of the fact that I'm making this decision based on this emotion, because I do think that some decisions need to be made based on emotions, but just having that sort of consciousness and awareness, and also to be able to I think it's not just about yourself. I think emotional intelligence is also how you are able to perceive other people.
Yes, you're right.
जिसमें फिर आपकी वो empathy और आ जाती है कि how you are able to understand कि बाकी भी emotions process कर रहे हैं.
But how did you get to this point? Did you have to learn EQ and emotional intelligence? Like, how did you start becoming aware of how important it is?
I think that had to do with my own discovery of writing. So what I'll say is कि जब मैं I learned कि whenever I used to feel something or think things, and when I used to write them down, put them on pen and paper, so it made me much more aware of what I'm feeling. So for me it was just like कि अगर मैं बस चीज़ें feel कर रही हूँ या सोच रही हूँ और मैं उनको words नहीं दे रही, acknowledge नहीं कर रही, समझ नहीं, तो मैं बस उन पे react करती जाती हूँ. So it's like, I don't even know what I'm feeling, I'm just reacting to it left, right and center. But when I write it down, I know, okay, so if I have to write how I'm feeling, I'll be like, okay, today I feel, I will give it a word. And that moment of thought that I give it to then helps me respond rather than react, because मुझे समझ आ गई कि अच्छा क्या है, and then it just helps me resolve those emotions as well. क्योंकि otherwise it's a clutter in my head. And that sort of led me to realize how important emotional intelligence is.
Humna, I'm so glad you brought up the subject of journaling and writing your thoughts down, because even in therapy, in psychology, there's this very famous neuroscientist from MIT. Her name is Dr. Tara Swart, SWART. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. And she lives by this. She teaches this as well. But that goes into a bit of another direction on manifesting your dream life, your goals, things like that. But she talks about how you can be more in tune with yourself through journaling. And therapists recommend that. Write it down. And you're so right. You are able to identify your responses regarding a particular situation.
So I think for me, writing is where I discovered self-awareness, because it started making me more aware of myself. Like there's an external and then there's an internal. Or there's so much noise around you that you never really get to hear your inner voice. And it's there. But logon ki baatein, social media, you're always consuming. You are consuming so much that the noise outside is so loud that you can't hear the one inside. And it is when you sit down with a pen and you write is when that sort of appears. So, and वही बात है, then you lose yourself, na? Who you are, your authentic voice. What do you want? What do you feel? And it's such an unhappy space to be in when you don't know yourself.
So true.
And who you are and why do you behave the way that you behave.
Because you feel you're just like bhatkofying.
You're mindless living, है ना?
Mindless.
It also taught me about living mindfully. Just writing. Writing helped me discover all of this. So I mean, I don't consider myself an expert in any of these things. मैंने वो नहीं किया. This is truly just like a personal thing that I have learned simply through वो. So I want to ask you, what is your understanding of emotional intelligence? You asked me this question.
Right. So I think, yeah, pretty much what you were saying vis-a-vis being number one, the most important thing I would say which resonates with me is having a good, normal, or even high EQ is being in tune with yourself. And Shakespeare was so right when he said, know thyself. How profound those two words are. Know thyself, because if you know thyself, you pretty much know, you know everyone, and you can understand and relate with them, just like you were talking about through your interviews, where you feel like you could relate with people and tune into them. So I think for me, having a healthy EQ, having healthy emotional intelligence is knowing who you are, treating your flaws with compassion.
Yes.
Knowing when to bring out the tools to help yourself in certain situations. It's like drawing out little magic wands. Okay, an issue with a boss here, or, a problem, let's say disagreement with a friend or a partner. What tool do I have to deal with this particular person? Judging by their personality and character. Okay, this person's a bit of a hothead.
Yeah, perception. Like you become more perceptive of how people are, and you can rationalize it for yourself.
You can rationalize
rather
it.
than judge them for it. So usme compassion, empathy, ye cheezein, they're linked to it, and also an understanding of emotions.
Yes, exactly. So true. When you have EQ, you're right, you can read the room.
You can read the room. I was going to say that word. You learn to read the room.
Absolutely. Facial expressions, all of that, and also intuition.
Oh my God,
right?
Yes. That's
Tell me,
just
why
everything.
Did that resonate with why did that resonate?
Because I feel like, jo intuition wali baat hai, it's always there. Always. And it is also that inner voice. If you continue to ignore that inner voice, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I feel like intuition is so
underrated.
Yes. I feel like it just then jahan I can literally think कि जब मैंने अपनी इंट्यूशन को नहीं सुना, मुझे आवाज आ रही थी, मैंने नहीं सुना, I fell flat on my face after that.
I know what you mean.
Because it's like, it is so correct.
It's literally like screaming at you in the face.
Yes. It's telling you, no, don't do this. Or yes, do this.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And और वो आपकी emotional intelligence से आती है, और वो इसी तरह आती है कि you are in tune with yourself so you can hear it.
बिल्कुल.
Otherwise you can't hear it.
Otherwise you can't. So I've been watching a lot of, we were talking about earlier, during the lockdown, I really threw myself into the deep end, Humna, of self-discovery and self-awareness. And I'm like, I need to focus on my pain points.
Did this happen because you were like, life sort of forced you? Because, you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Quarantine mein ho. So
I was going through the dark night of the soul like millions of other people, and I was depressed. I was very lonely because, there I was, a journalist and this person in the media field, where I was deriving a sense of validation by being seen and perceived by the other, and there it is being shut off. And I'm literally stuck at home with my family and my animals, and I'm like, okay, sheesh, I've hit a wall. How do I derive my validation now? And so I threw myself into the deep end. I started reading and watching all these YouTube channels from Impact Theory, Tom Bilyeu, his interviews, Dr. Gabor Mate, he's a very renowned psychologist in the US, talks about trauma in childhood, things like that. So I started consuming literally everything I could get my hands on, from books to this and that. And I discovered, and in that process, Humna, I was also meditating a lot. I used to meditate before as well. Meditating, I was praying, I was journaling like a mad woman. And I remember a year into the lockdown, I remember a little voice said to me, as mad as this sounds, that don't worry, one day all you're learning now, you'll be able to use in the world. And it happened this year. I'm a different person. Nothing breaks me anymore. Alhamdulillah, touch wood. Nothing can break me. Of course, I'm normal. I'm not superwoman. There are triggers. There are things where I go into fight or flight like normal people. But it takes a lot to break me.
Yeah. So basically,
And I used to be a dharpok.
I think when your sense of self is strong, you are secure. और वो sense of self को strong बनाने का तरीका ही है find yourself. Your sense of self will be weak when you haven't found yourself.
Is yours strong?
I think it was very strong.
Yeah.
But I think there's something that I say about motherhood is that it's like a nuclear bomb goes off in you, and everything that you have become, it collapses.
Explain.
And you are a completely new person. It's like a blank canvas and you are starting from. So I'd say that motherhood sort of robbed me of my identity in a way कि मुझे समझ नहीं आता था who I am anymore, because it's such a huge role that it consumes you. And also because your life changes so much after you become a mother. It changes so much that you can't be the same person you were before. When your life changes in its core, where you have to look after an entire human being, and everything that you the freedom that you had before in your life, it's gone now, and you have to give so much of yourself to another human being. You lose yourself in that process. And it's and for me, I think मेरी ज़्यादा struggle, I think motherhood में अगर मुझसे कोई पूछे कि what my greatest struggle was, मैं हमेशा यही कहती हूँ, it was my loss of identity. Because I had a very strong sense of identity and I lost it. And वो कहते हैं कि जो आपका postpartum period होता है, your postpartum depression actually, or not even depression, just your postpartum period में you cry so much because you are grieving your past life.
My God.
That doesn't exist anymore. So I read an entire study on this, that it's actually grieving everything you were before. And it was very true for me, because it was just like, now what? Now nothing is the same. Like my worldview wasn't the same. I couldn't. And because they say that, when you become a mother, your brain, it physically changes. So what happens is that your thought process, your perception, everything changes. It's actually an evolutionary thing where your mind goes through certain changes, where it focuses on child rearing.
Wow. And the child's survival.
So you can't, and little things like you can hear the child's cry so much louder than anybody else in the room.
My God.
Because it's आपकी senses और आपका brain वो change हो जाता है.
And they're heightened.
It's heightened. So I felt very secure in my motherhood, where I knew how to be a mom, which I had never been in my entire life, but I didn't know how to be anything else that I had known my whole life. So for me it was just like a identity crisis.
Wow.
Who am I now?
And not a lot of women talk about this.
Yes.
So what are you doing about it?
So I talked about this once. I've talked about it many times actually. But मैंने एक दफ़ा अपने Instagram पे video डाली थी, which was simply about how I didn't know how to speak in the camera anymore, which was something I was doing for years and years. And मुझसे नहीं होता था. And then I put it out there, and then there were so many women who said, 3 years into motherhood, 5 years, I don't know who I am.
Oh my God.
I don't know who I am. So it's a thing. It's a very legitimate thing that happens to wo. But abhi in very recent times, I'd say, my self-esteem was finished. My confidence was gone. I hated myself. The words I used for myself, what I thought about myself, it was all really, really bad. But just recently, जो मैंने न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब वाली चीज़ आपसे बात की है, मैंने इसको एक्सेप्ट किया है only a month or so ago, and it has made an entire difference, because I've started seeing it as, okay, goodbye to my old self, rather than trying to, that baggage is like gone. It's like, okay, bye. There was a Humna Raza before, she's gone, okay, fine, I accept it. I love being a mom. I've enjoyed it so much. I have enjoyed motherhood so much, regardless of this challenge that I faced with it. I'm a mom now, and now I see it as a blank canvas. Let's see and discover. And I am not attached. Good. I think one of the greatest things I'd say that happened to me, pehle, even though I saw it as a bad thing, but I think one of the greatest things that motherhood has done for me, it has humbled me in a way where I'm not attached to anything I was attached to before. So I am... I feel very free, where I can be like, okay, today I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to wrap up this podcast, I want to wrap up being a content creator. I'm ready to do any of it. I'm ready to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm ready to do a complete new educational course, start a new direction, because I feel like I'm not attached to anything from my past anymore.
Humna, is there an element of fearlessness as well?
Yes, 100%. I feel,
and it's empowering.
Yes, I feel so empowered just in the fact that आइडेंटिटी नहीं है, लेकिन उसी में मुझे ये चीज इस तरह से अच्छी लगती है कि फिर मेरी अटैचमेंट भी नहीं है किसी चीज से.
ऐसे लगता है ego has been destroyed.
Yes.
And it's being recreated now.
Yes, I feel
which is
so
amazing.
humble. I am so humbled. Like कहते हैं ना कि I even, because your body goes through so much, your body changes so much. आपका ना, it made me realize how I was attached to beauty.
Oof.
And how actually I never loved myself unconditionally. Because if I loved myself unconditionally, I would love myself even now, but I didn't.
Now this is fascinating. You as a young mom, me as a 39-year-old who only now, I don't give a damn what I look like. Yes, I take care of myself, lost weight, blah, blah. But only abhi aake I look back on my life and I think, what a waste. How many years I wasted comparing myself to others. Yeah. And now I'm like, because beauty fades, Humna. It's that self, you know. And of course, I mean, it doesn't help having social media throwing these bloody filters in our faces all the time.
Somebody recently said to me, how does it feel to be such a chubby fat wife to a smart thin man? I was just like, lol, that's hilarious. But yeah, people say these things. You know, people say, yeah, so social media.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But Humna, it's fascinating, right? How older women go through that as well, you know, who are childless, but they reach that point where it's like there's a dissolving of that old ego.
Yeah.
And with mums as well, like yourself, there's a rapid dissolving of the old self.
Yeah.
It's very empowering.
It is so empowering. और मैंने अभी उसको इस तरह से देखना शुरू किया है, and I am sure so many people don't look at it like that. मुझे तो इस बात की पहले मैं बड़ी depressed थी इस बारे में कि मैं मोटी हो गई हूँ, मैं ऐसी हो गई हूँ, मुझे कुछ, and it is a depressing phase where you hate the whole process and idea of getting ready because you don't like yourself in any way. But that made me realize my attachment to beauty and beauty standards, and I was like, listen, like, no.
Yeah.
That realization, I was like, that's not good. I don't want to be attached to those. Like, it's fine if I like to look good and I like to take care of my body, but ये superficial attachment is. So what I'm trying to say is that when you truly love something, so let's talk about your body. Example दे देती हूँ. You have a friend. You love your friend a lot. If you love your friend, you want to take care of her. You want to make sure she's happy.
Yes.
If she's happy, you're happy. If she's healthy, you're happy.
Yeah.
लेकिन अगर वो मोटी हो जाती है वैसी, do you stop loving her?
Never.
Right? But with our bodies, what we tend to do is that we love our bodies based on only the way that they look.
Yeah.
Not beyond that. So something that really made me love my body beyond the way that it looks is motherhood, where I thought about how it fed my baby and how it carried my baby and how it provided comfort to my baby. And literally it was like I started yoga and usme na, at the end of a yoga session, I don't know if you've ever done yoga, but usme shavasana is like meditation. And in shavasana, you do your body scan and you think of your body. So what I started doing that, in those times when I would think about my feet, I would think about how I would pace at night with my child, rocking my baby and walking here, aage piche.
Yeah.
And then, when I would think about the rest of my body, I would think about my uterus and what it did. And then, how my body, like with my breast, I fed my baby and all of these things.
Yeah.
And I felt so sad. I cried so much because I was like, I hate my body because of the way it looks, but I refuse to love my body for the things that it has done.
Look at that.
And then I realized that I never loved my body. I always loved it for the way that it looked.
Yeah.
Because if I truly loved my body, I would love it for all of these things. And wo to chale motherhood hai.
Yeah.
Even people who haven't. It helps you walk. It helps you do so many other things. Move. You can't do anything without your body.
Yeah, well said, Humna. And a woman's body is a home to life.
Yes.
It literally is a home to life, to new life. And the thing is that I wanted to address one thing where, you finally realized that it doesn't matter how I'm looked or perceived. What was happening was, it wasn't really your perception changing about your body. Behind that was the perception of society and what you've been conditioned to view you as. That broke.
That broke, yeah.
You are looking at yourself as Humna would look at herself, without the attachment of bloody society.
Yeah, and it's a very tough journey.
It is.
So like I had to, मैं यही कहती हूँ कि अगर मैं fully अंदर से break ना होती ना, where I lost myself. जब तक I didn't lose myself, I couldn't have had these realizations.
You should be very grateful that you've had this awakening at this age, at this stage. Because many people, they are literally at the end of their lives and they still haven't awakened. I know this sounds very cliched and dramatic, but it's a fact. We are on Earth School to wake up. We're here to learn, to refine, to elevate ourselves.
Inner selves more.
Inner selves. If you don't wake up, what's the point of all of this struggle?
Yeah. So I feel like I think इसलिए मैं कहूँगी कि my greatest lesson in the past few years and with motherhood is becoming humble, because now when I do pursue these things or beauty या बहुत सारी और चीज़ें, so मेरे दिमाग में एक thing है constantly reminding me of the humility and the modesty that I need to live my life with, and that I don't need to get attached to, there's no need to get attached to all of these things.
Absolutely.
So वो जो sense of identity शायद loss हुआ, लेकिन I'm very secure in a very different way.
Absolutely, and I can see that it comes across. But I think there's one thing that people need to remember, Humna. The self-awareness journey, it's an ongoing thing. If we're self-aware now, we'd be dead tomorrow, right? The thing is that one should not police oneself so much. Don't drop the attachments like this. You have to shed them very slowly.
Yeah, okay.
Don't shock yourself.
Makes sense.
So if you revert back to an old pattern, that's okay. You are human.
Yeah. And I think यही होता है. It's never like this. It's always like this.
Always
बीच
like
में
that.
time आएगा where I will completely forget about this. And then, time आएगा where,
But where the magic is? In the consistent rewiring of those perceptions. When that thought comes up, moti ho gayi hu, I don't look good enough, you question that. Where is this voice coming from? Why am I saying that to myself?
I think that ability is more important. Because ये तो होगा. There will be times that आपको ये सारी चीज़ें दोबारा feeling हो. ये जो awakening जिसकी आप बात करी हैं, जिसको आप healing, awakening, self awareness achieve करने वाली बात कर लें, वो कभी भी इस तरह तो नहीं होती कि अब हो गई है, अब achieve हो गई है. There will be times it will come back down and something will happen. A traumatic event can happen, anything, and you will lose it all. But it's just that ability to question that. Think about that. Why am I talking about myself like this? Why am I thinking about myself like this?
Exactly.
That's important to have.
That's very important. And Humna, over the past couple of days, I've been thinking about something. And this thought came to me. Okay, like, look at your career. Or if I look at my career, like starting from the worst experience in my career, and then there was another experience but wasn't the best. And then tuck. Every experience in any domain of your life is an elevation. Emotional intelligence, self-awareness, mindfulness. You have a reality check on your life's purpose. And then the blows get dull. And you begin to identify what's good for you, what isn't good for you. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, even regarding one's self-perception, your earliest memory of how you viewed yourself, where perhaps when you look at those pictures now, you probably think, damn, I looked great then. What the hell was wrong with me? So what happens is, even in one's self-perceptions, as you keep refining it, the voice gets dulled, and it's just an elevation of the sense of self.
Very profound. So, आपकी ये जो you said all of these things. You said कि COVID में you got into this.
In a big way.
How do you think that you said now you think you see yourself as a completely different person after that?
Okay, so I think the core of me is the same, but I feel a different person in the sense that, so I took the lockdown very badly because, again, I was deriving so much validation from the outside world, and social media just didn't do it for me. And then I remember then hearing that voice, my own voice, saying, you'll be able to use these tools at some point. So when I moved to Lahore for a job, and it was a lovely experience. I was there for about 7 months. And that's when I realized that I changed this year, where I just realized that I could relate with people very easily on a very deep level. I wasn't very good at eye contact. I used to get very nervous and shy. And I feel now eye contact for me is the most important thing in the world. Because through eye contact, you really feel the other person. You know, you can relate to them, you can bond with them very easily. So these little changes, which may seem small, had a big effect on how I viewed myself in the world and how I could relate with others. And through relating to others, I realized what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Even if it was just, writing a book here, articles here, making my postcards there. The main thing was blowing the lid off that which is overlooked. No matter what medium it is.
Yeah, and I think, and why do you think that is something that you want to do? Where does it connect within you? I want to talk about, these overlooked people or overlooked places or overlooked artists. Or
that's a very good question. I think because I had this chip on my shoulder.
Oh yeah,
I think I had this self-fulfilling prophecy even as a kid. I'm the wallflower. I'm the loser in school. I'm overlooked. I'm different. I'm the little teacup with the chip. Literally in the glass cabinet full of silverware and the best china.
So it is that.
It's that. And where, even though I do interview celebrities and stuff like that, but with the cream, I also have the best part, like the crop of young musicians these days. So I recently interviewed a whole bunch of up-and-coming musicians in Pakistan, and their stories are fascinating, how they're changing the music landscape in this country. So I think it comes from there. Document it,
Makes sense. So, okay. Now, we've spoken a bit on this, your post-COVID sort of thing and how that led you to this decision, what you want to do with your life and self-discovery and all. Can we talk a bit about your career now? Okay, I think last you mentioned that. Yes, just tell me a bit about your career. Okay, what do you do? What have you done? Where have you worked?
Okay.
That sort of a thing.
So basically, currently what I'm doing is I'm writing for Forbes Life. It's the lifestyle section on Forbes.com.
How did that happen? Because Forbes, for people, is like, wow, Forbes!
That happened thanks to Columbia. When you go to a college like that, you get a foot in the door and the best passes to anything. And of course, मैंने बहुत हाथ पैर मारा है, so making contacts here and there. One of my class fellows worked at Forbes when I graduated. She got a job at Forbes. And even though we didn't know each other very well, I emailed her a year after graduating. I said, hey, is there any chance I could freelance for the website? And she was like, okay, I'll put you through to someone. And it happened like that. And us waqt se it's been 7 years since I've been writing. And so I'm doing a lot of freelance writing, Humna. I've gotten back into it. Pehle I got so sick of it. मैंने कहा बस मैंने नहीं लिखना. I'm tired. But it's a part of me. So I'm freelance writing. I recently wrote a children's book. It's about a little dog. Wolfie. It's about a little dog, and it's for ages 9 and up. And it touches on 2 main topics. One is animal empathy, and number 2 is self-belief. Two of my, 2 topics that I wish children were, they were inculcated with these values more and these belief systems in themselves. Okay,
interesting. So, बहुत अच्छी आपने ये बात की जो it's taking me back to our conversation about how we taught kids about very black and white things. और हमारे बचपन की कहानियाँ भी ऐसी होती थी कि जो moral of the stories होते थे ना, वो बड़े बेसिक होते थे कि ये गलत ये सही.
Yes.
Now you see you see कि बच्चों की जो books हैं और चीज़ें
बिल्कुल.
उसमें there is focus on all of these values
Yes.
and empathy and all of these things as well. And
Absolutely. Like I feel like Pakistan में हमारे जो local like books हैं बच्चों के लिए they are very simple but the packaging and yes the stories some of them are beautiful,
Yeah.
very interesting, very engaging for a young audience, but unfortunately हमना ये है क्योंकि the new generation is growing up is so tech savvy, and also they don't have, a majority of these children don't have access to the internet, but our literature for children is not packaged well. And children are, they are very visual. So I think books and, reading material has to be packaged with the right illustrations and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So that's something that I feel it's very important in our curriculums.
100%, yeah. वो especially Urdu, like you said.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think Urdu language generally is
Especially Urdu, correct?
वो language in itself मुश्किल है.
Yes.
और I think बच्चों की जो किताबें होती हैं they need to be more simplified. I would say
Absolutely.
उर्दू की.
Yes.
ताकि उसको ज़्यादा simpler language में किया जाए और convey किया जाए ताकि वो enjoy तो करें उस चीज़ को.
Exactly. Enjoy
Yeah.
करें and also
फिर learn करें.
Yeah, and also give children the opportunity to be able to dream. And have a life of wonder.
Imagination.
Children are naturally geared towards that.
Yeah.
But I think having books which kind of like foster that even more, you'll have like geniuses on your hands. You'll have out of the box thinkers and the best artists and the best problem solvers.
True. So you wrote another book as well.
I wrote another book.
What was that about?
So that was published in 2021. That was a non-fiction book, a very thick book on a non-profit based in Pindi called Motherhood, the Motherhood Association of Pakistan.
Yeah. Oh, you covered that.
I covered that. So that project was about 2 years. It was a grueling process, but it was very gratifying.
Okay.
Because and I'll tell you in a nutshell, Motherhood's life's mission from the very start, Akhtar Riazuddin is the lady who spearheaded Motherhood in the 60s. The mid-60s, and her main mission in life was to empower the disempowered.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. So the entire book focused on how she did that, how she created change in these impoverished and orthodox communities from the inside out. Because you can't just go as an outsider and be like, okay, women's rights and okay, female emancipation, because the village elders, the community elders, the men in the family would be like, we have our own cultural values. Our women cannot work. They cannot go into the market, blah, blah, blah. So the entire book, the story is based and traces how Motherhood did that expertly and how it's created so much change.
And it's still going.
Exactly. It's beautiful.
That is the Motherhood story is amazing. I'll read your book. This is very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you.
So why did you think of covering this? इसी वजह से it's such a great story.
Yeah, so basically it just came my way. Someone known to me approached me and she said, look, there's this project. She was working with Motherhood.
Acha.
And she said, would you consider writing this book? So we had a meeting, then another meeting, and then I met the president of Motherhood, Abida Malik, in Pindi. And it was very exciting, and I was like, yes, let's do this. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So do you plan to write more books?
Absolutely.
That was your first book ever?
That was my first book. One of my short stories was published in a Jane Austen-inspired fiction book called Austenistan.
Acha.
And then Motherhood happened. And now I feel Humna ke bas, the
Books
buck
likhne.
stops with children's books. So this year, inshallah, January onwards, I'm planning at least 2 books for children. 2 more.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy writing books?
I love it because I feel like I'm a little kid again. And I'm looking at things with looking at them like how I used to when I was a child. So it's like reconnecting with that, with myself.
So through your journalism journey, did you ever think of writing books? That you will eventually write books? या ये थोड़ा randomly हो गया?
Random. Because I'm very impatient and I'm like मुझसे बैठा नहीं जाता.
जब idea आ गया है तो अब करना है. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And also impatience in the sense that I could never see myself, even though I'm a journalist, as writing for hours on end. On a laptop. But now it's like, it's really beaten me into shape. Can I sit, write?
Right.
It's brought that discipline.
So how was your experience writing a book?
How is my experience?
Like, क्योंकि ना मैं अगर सोचती हूँ कि मैंने कभी book लिखनी है, my husband keeps saying you should write a book.
Why not?
Because he thinks like I can write really well, so he says write a book.
Yeah.
So
you should.
But वो मुझे ना बहुत daunting लगता है. So how was like? Didn't you think बहुत मुश्किल है या क्या?
So for a non-fiction book, मेरे लिए personally it was torture. Because it's not just one article where you're focusing on facts from one person or one subject. It's like an entire organization spanning over 4 decades. And there's so many people to interview. So ek to collecting that data, transcribing it, then mulling over it, thinking about it, writing it, and then making it creative and engaging for the reader. You can't make it read like, just some random, like a pamphlet. It started out in 19, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You have to give it that...
storytelling जो है उसकी वो engaging और interesting होनी चाहिए.
Emotion.
And also I think वो भी होगा ना कि doing justice to the story.
Yes, exactly.
Are you able to bring out that emotion that the story deserves?
True. And can you inspire people reading this to support non-profits like this, homegrown non-profits, or inspire them to do their own thing in Pakistan,
See. So, and now you'll write more kids' books.
Yeah, inshallah.
So, like, when you think about kids' books, it's like, इसी age के 9, 10?
Absolutely. 9 and up. And also, Wolfie is 9 and up. But Humna, I really want to go into picture books for toddlers.
Baby books.
Because by the way, I have an obsession with buying baby books. I love it. I think I may have about 10 in my library. And they're just so beautiful, the way they're illustrated, simple stories, like 500 words, that's it, 2 or 3 words per page. But yet the lesson in it. Like I'll tell you one example. 2015, I was working for a school network and I was working on a school curriculum for grades 1 to 3. And I started researching books. I was going to warehouses, looking at kids' literature. And I came across this one book. It's called Elmer, E-L-M-E-R. And it's about a rang-barangi elephant, a multicolored elephant who always used to feel like the odd one out. Sound familiar? And it's the most simple story, but it is beautiful. It's about loving who you are, no matter what you look like.
Cute. Why don't we stop telling these stories? Like, bachpan mein bas.
It sucks, really. But I think where books maybe locally have kind of like plateaued, I think cartoons and animated movies have kind of picked up, like Disney and Pixar.
Oh, yeah.
Pixar particularly.
The stories they're making.
Exactly. Very profound.
Very profound. But sometimes some parents say कि इतना profound करने की क्या ज़रूरत है?
That's true. But also I think they're a little chalak. They are also targeting adults as well. So sometimes we will see adult humor, which is a bit...
Yeah, I see a lot of adult humor.
Yeah, you have to be careful.
Like, even when I go back and look at our बचपन की movies, तो मैं कहती हूँ ये मैं बचपन में देख रही थी, इसमें तो उन्होंने ये बात की हुई है, ये किया हुआ है और ये किया हुआ है.
Exactly. A friend of mine, I was telling her, she was like, "Oh, Sonya, what's your favorite cartoon?" I was like, "Oh my God, my favorite cartoon was this lovely one about these fairies who lived in a forest, and it's all about, deforestation and things like that." She's like, "What's it called?" I said, "Fern Gully." I watched it thousands of times and I loved it. She said, "Do you know that cartoon had some songs in it, just के lyrics were not suitable for children?" That's when I started realizing, I was like, oh my God.
So, but as a child, you miss those things. I think वो होता है कि क्योंकि parents बच्चों के साथ बैठ के देख रहे होते हैं, वो कहते हैं उनके लिए
Exactly.
But it's weird.
Sahi baat hai. But then again, Humna, if we're talking about cartoons, Bambi, Lion King traumatized me. I mean, how do they show things like that to such a young audience? Yes, there are beautiful lessons in it, but
Lion King, I totally get, because
oh my God.
it's so weird. Actually, Lion King was one of my dad's favorite movies, cartoon. With me and my sister, he used to watch it, and my sister वो छोटी थी तो वो हर रोज लगाती थी. So he was watch it with her every day, हर रोज Lion King. Lion King में होता क्या है कि his father dies. Mufasa dies.
Oh yes.
And because I had all my memories with my dad and how much he loved it, and then when I watched it post his death, I was traumatized because I
that's
could
painful.
feel for Simba like anything,
That's
where his
painful.
dad just dies and he's just trying to wake him up.
My God.
And that scene would make me sob and cry like anything. Not just because, his dad has died, but because I also used to like watch this with him. So it was just like...
that's painful.
So yeah, it's like...
Yeah.
It's very...
Yeah.
मतलब इतना बड़ा loss उन्होंने वो उसके अंदर दिखाया है. हाँ.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
But then if you go into like children's nursery rhymes and
Oh my God.
right, they're very dark.
Yeah.
Like, you know that nursery rhyme, Ring a Ring a Roses, a pocket full of posies, some posies or poses, I don't know. That is based on some plague. And we all fall down. That means death.
Yeah, I heard.
Ugh, you know?
And then there's also directly weird. वो है rockabye baby on the tree top. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. And then eventually, like, it will fall. वो जो भी है उसका आगे.
And if you think about it, Humna, Hansel and Gretel, that used to give me nightmares as a kid.
Yeah. All of these things are very scary.
Good Lord.
And then, okay, so there's one more rhyme. It goes like, wait. Down by the bay. Have you heard?
Heard of it.
So down by the bay where something. But I will not go back to my home because my mother will say, have you ever seen, or आगे something ridiculous like a goat in a boat, which rhyme किया हुआ. So I read कि उसकी history. And why did I end up reading it? Because for some reason, my son being only like 8 months, 9 months, उसको कोई language तो समझ नहीं आती. But every time it would come up, he would cry. And I don't know why. Like, obviously, उसका कोई और random reason होगा, but he wouldn't just like cry. He would listen to it. He would listen to it, and then he would make a, and then he, like as if emotionally he is triggered. Like it would be very evident on his face that he's emotionally triggered, and he would cry. Like मैंने randomly Google किया कि why does my child cry when he listens to this? I didn't really get an answer. But because I got into the nursery rhyme, पता ही चला कि उसमें वो actually ये कह रहा है कि I don't want to go back home where my mom is because उसकी जो माँ है actually उसको dementia है और वो confuse करती है चीज़ें और उसको hallucinations होती हैं. So have you, like my mother would say, have you ever seen a goat rowing a boat down by the bay? Or my mother would say, have you ever seen a cat playing with a bat down by the bay? So वो actually में उसकी theme ये है कि he doesn't want to go back to home to his mom because his mom has basically lost her mind.
God, that is so dark.
That is really dark.
So, jeez.
Yeah, but here, I'm sure that's not why my son was crying because he couldn't understand.
But children are perceptive. Babies are so perceptive.
I don't know, but he would just, अब नहीं रोता वो, but जब वो बहुत छोटा था, so he would, and that's how I learned. So yeah, these rhymes are very twisted and weird.
Very twisted. And imagine us there, we are singing ring a ring a roses, not knowing it's about the bloody plague.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't even know why.
Yeah.
Maybe they wanted to tell kids what the hell is happening, so they made them into rhymes to tell them, listen, like,
oh my
there's
God.
a plague. And we're all dying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like very sugar-coated. Sugar-coat और rhyme करके ना एक बहुत dark सी चीज़ बताई हुई है.
Also, come to think of it, actually, but maybe like Red Riding Hood. Okay, so as a parent, do you think it touches upon don't talk to strangers or something like that? What do you think are the themes in Red Riding Hood?
Never thought about that.
But it is dark, isn't it?
It is dark. I think
Yeah.
उसमें थीम यही है कि आप अकेले कहीं ना जाएं
Yes.
और किसी स्ट्रेंजर से बात ना करें और उससे
Yeah.
कोई टॉफी वॉफी ना लें.
हाँ.
Because they could be sweet in the front, but they could be evil in
the back. Yeah.
हाँ.
Yeah,
So,
but even that used to freak me out. Red Riding Hood. Oh my God. With her little Red Riding Hood and the frickin' wolf and pata nahi kya.
fairy tales ही सही है.
सही बात है. But ये भी देखो fairy tales में like Cinderella and stuff. Why does she need the prince to wake her up?
हाँ, वो
Why
वहाँ
can't
पे
she
वो-
get up on her own?
Yeah, it's just like
So you know you have that whole patriarchal thing coming
thing
there.
going. Okay, you need a man to save you. You need a man to save
And
you.
Humna, don't you think Disney has messed up our perception on love and relationships?
I think Disney has a part to play, but it's everything.
That's true.
Yeah,
Everything.
it's all of all love stories and
Yeah, that's
Bollywood ने
true.
कितना अजीब किया है मतलब.
I know, like, what is that? That's true. That's
so
true.
I think it's all of it, but हाँ
Yeah.
Disney ने किया है.
Yeah.
Where you're just like my
Yeah.
Prince Charming.
Like, I was recently reading this article about Beauty and the Beast. So, usme, I mean, if you think about it, like, he kidnaps her and he keeps her locked away.
हाँ they say कि वो है ये
There's some, I'm totally like blanking out.
Stockholm syndrome.
Exactly. I was like, what the hell?
Falling in love with your
Captor.
Captor, yeah.
Yeah. And then, dreaming about Kharni in Beauty and the Beast, she didn't dream about that one day he'll become a beautiful, handsome prince.
No, she didn't.
She didn't. She didn't care.
She didn't care. उसकी actually theme ये थी कि it doesn't matter how like you don't have to be.
Yeah.
Basically, being ugly doesn't make you bad.
That's
उसकी ये
true.
थी कि वो actually में अंदर से बड़ा nice और sweet था और
Yeah.
वो था.
But then again, see, Humna, you never have cartoons and stories where the handsome prince marries a wizened old witch,
Yeah.
thinking, oh, she's got such a lovely nature.
Yeah.
It's always the women who are empathetic and who are accepting of the beast.
Oh yeah, that's true. ये भी है. हाँ.
है ना?
हाँ.
Oh God. Okay, next topic.
क्योंकि
So
उसमें
that's too
ना
dark.
ब्यूटी एंड द बीस्ट में उन्होंने वो कंपैरिजन ड्रॉ किया हुआ था बिकॉज देयर इज गस्टॉन आई थिंक जो दूसरा होता है जो
Yeah.
बड़ा मैंडी और वो एंड ऑल द
Yeah.
अदर वुमेन आर लाइक
Crazy about it.
yeah but she's like oh my god screw you and then she falls in love with this beast
Exactly. And maybe, how do you pronounce his name again?
Gaston I think
Something like that.
something
Maybe
like
he
that.
would have been okay for her, even though he was super arrogant. Oh
so,
God.
yeah I think वो lessons हैं but वो भी twisted है वही बात होती है कि ब्लैक एंड वाइट ही नहीं है कुछ तो आप क्या
True,
करें हाँ
true.
खैर या सो इज देयर आई डोंट नो वेयर वी वर हम इनमें घुस गए
This
we
is
were
fun
talking
though.
about your work yeah
So the main thing right
Books,
now
huh?
is books, children's books.
yeah
And
and
Yeah.
and you write for a bunch of
Publications.
like, publications
But I really feel like, like maybe going into like video, like interviewing people out in the streets, and bringing my work into video is something that I am toying with. And I should have done years ago, but let's see.
video journalism
Video journalism, exactly. I mean, that is the way it is now. I mean, no one has the time to read a long form 2,000 word piece anymore.
yeah
You know what I mean?
yeah and you have to evolve with the times
You have to. You have to, yeah.
so
But you know what? There's just one thing I'll add to this. I'm not cementing anything. Okay, but this is what I'll do. I just want to be in a fluid state of let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And take it a day at a
like
time.
me I'm like that like
Right?
like I'm in a very fluid state कि ठीक है
Yeah.
कुछ भी बन जाऊँ मैं कल को इस वक्त I'm okay with that
I don't want to fixate on anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Partial thing is I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to fall flat on my face.
yeah वो ना हो
वो ना हो. But at the same time, the other thing is maybe I'll be surprised if I don't have my grip on something. You know?
right so I think is there anything else you have
I
in
think we've
mind
covered
that
everything.
you want to talk about something you thought that you wanted to say on this platform and I didn't ask you
I think just being aware of oneself is something that I just wanted to really drive home again. And also, like, given these gurus online on YouTube and stuff, it's very easy to get caught up in that. Always know that the self-awareness journey is not easy. It really is the dark night of the soul. But you should push yourself into it. Like, you've come out of it, Humna. You're still coming out of it. I'm coming out of it. And yes, we come out a bit, weather beaten, and we come out with bruises and we're emotionally exhausted. But the sooner you go into the process of it, the better the remaining part of your life will be.
Yeah.
So don't romanticize self-awareness. That's something that I wanted to tell your platform, your viewers. Don't romanticize it and don't rush it.
Yeah. It's a tough thing to do. It's not an easy place to be in or an easy thing to do. Like, you have to be prepared for it.
Have to be prepared for it, yeah.
Can you tell me, though, what are some ways that people can get into it?
Okay. I think the first one is what you mentioned. I think start with journaling.
Yeah.
Keep a diary, something that no one in your home will be able to see. It should just be for you and yourself alone. Write down your thoughts every single day, not just when you hit a wall.
Yeah.
Make sure you journal every single day. If you have an issue that you're dealing with, write it down. And like you also mentioning, write the pros and cons. Try and see it from both aspects. The other thing is that keep a tab on your emotions and know that your emotion is not the reality. It's just something that was conditioned in you, was a response to something in your external environment. That's it. The emotion is not the reality. That's it. Keep remembering that.
That's emotional intelligence.
Yeah. It's very hard, but as you keep realizing that, let's say if you have an emotional meltdown or you flare up, as you keep becoming aware of it, that's why they say count to 5. Don't react, count to 5. Why do they say that? They say that because it gives you a few seconds to come back into the self. And as you keep doing that, those 5 seconds, 3 seconds, jo bhi hai, gets bigger, bigger, bigger till you kill that pattern. You slay the dragon. So that next time someone else crops up who is the complete replica of someone in your past, this always happens, it's weird in this life, who pops up, your response will be different to what it was then. Because you've killed the pattern. So
very interesting.
It's an elevation. Keep that in mind.
I love that. That was very good. I think, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I think, yes, I started with writing as well.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not saying I'm the most self-aware. This is, like I said, it's a whole journey.
It is,
But writing is, I think, for me, writing just reflecting on how your day was, how your week was, what were the highs, what were the lows, what did you hope to achieve but didn't achieve, and now what do you hope to achieve next?
Exactly.
So
it's a game changer.
I think दिमाग का जो clutter है वो इतना resolve होना शुरू हो जाता है simply by just putting it all out on paper.
Absolutely. And also one more thing, because post-COVID and during COVID, a lot of us, a majority of us, have led very sedentary lifestyles, and it's become more so now with work from home, remote work, you name it. Exercise, get your body active, even if it's just, like you were remembering walking up and down in your house with your little baby. Even if it's just you walking around your house with your Fitbit on or whatever, get your body active. When your body is active, your mind is not a devil's workshop. True. Your body's active, you're taking out all the toxins, and you don't have time to really kind of like fester in the toxicity.
Dwell on the negative things.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. Yeah. Write and exercise, guys. Really, like people do say कि game changing चीज़ हैं, but we don't never take it seriously enough.
Absolutely.
But people like who've done it, they know.
Yeah,
कितना फर्क पड़ता है
बहुत ज़्यादा.
And then the rest is history.
The rest is history,
Yes.
And people will be able to see, you've seen changes in yourself, Humna, with your journaling.
Journaling and yoga both. Yoga is movement.
Yoga is incredible. It unlocks the person.
Yeah. And they also say na कि आपके your traumas are stored in your body.
Yes.
So when you move your body, वो release होते हैं.
That is a great topic for you to explore, by the way. How your body stores trauma
Yeah.
and how to release it.
Yeah.
That is very smart, actually. And the world is only abhi aake waking up to that.
Waking up to that. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that brings us this conversation to an end. We spoke
lovely.
for 1 hour 30 minutes.
Oh my, wow.
I had a podcast before this for 1 hour 20 minutes.
Oh, poor you. You need to recuperate.
No, I'm good. I really enjoyed both conversations. I think when you are stimulated and enjoying,
That's
तो आपको
true.
feel नहीं होता इतना.
That's true. I'll ask you in an hour.
बाद में शायद feel हो. When you're out of it, you're just like, oh my God, I'm so tired. But thank you so much for coming, for
Thank you,
taking up
Humna.
the time and for sharing these very profound thoughts
Thank you so much.
with us.
Thank you for giving me a platform to
Share this.
share it. Yeah, it means a lot. And your team is lovely, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love your setup.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I learned so much. I felt so, connected to Sonya. So much
Likewise.
we could, relate to.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of you can as well. So please leave your thoughts, your comments. आपको क्या लगता है? And if you learned something from this, the whole point is that. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It is very encouraging for me when you do that. And I'll see you again next time. Allah Hafiz.